Let's talk about a concept called genetic sexual attraction, a mental deficiency that is often viewed as strange and disgusting to those who don't have the experience. It refers to the sexual attraction to blood-related family members when said family members have been separated for a long period of time, most commonly in siblings when reuniting with each other. One theory that this occurs is the desire for humans to find sexual and/or romantic partners that are like themselves. Why do I bring this up, you ask? Well, because it's directly related to the topic of this video. Kaze, an anime about incest. Now wait, hold on. Before you click off of this video, allow me to explain myself. In recent years, there have been several anime such as Akisora, Oreimo, and the ever so infamous Kiss-Sis that have had incest in the show as a central plot point, but fell short because they never really commented on the nature of the societal taboo, even if one of these is a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine. That's where Kaze comes in, a 13-episode anime series about a pair of star-crossed siblings finding themselves falling in love. The story starts with 27-year-old man named Koshiro Saeki, who works at a marriage-arranging company, who all but forgot he had a little sister until she moved in with him and his father to attend school. His sister, an energetic 15-year-old middle school girl named Nanoka Koinata, lived with their mother and was very excited to get to meet and get to know her older brother, in spite of often getting irritated by his brisk and standoffish nature. They start off not getting along at first, but end up developing a close bond, and if you ask many, a bit too close of a bond. This slightly parallels their interactions when they were kids. When Nanoka was born, 12 years after Koshiro, he didn't like having her around at first, and she feared him. They did, however, obtain a decently strong brother-sister relationship over time. In the present day, on the other hand, they developed romantic and sexual interest in each other as a direct result of being separated for so many years and remembering next to nothing about each other. The two meet up in episode 1 and spend the entire day with each other, slowly growing closer, only to find out at the end of the episode about their blood relation. After that, they appear to be starting out at square one as siblings, but the attraction they felt for one another isn't gone, just subdued, and it quickly resurfaces and is brought to light. Both our lead characters are likable and sympathetic. Incest in stories has long been considered as big of a taboo as it is in real life. With stories, especially in anime, depicting incest so nonchalantly, it's not surprising that people would get sick of it, especially those who actually have siblings themselves. Kaze takes a more serious approach, however, realistically commenting on the struggles of those suffering from genetic attraction. The desires of our heroes are pretty disgusting, but you never get the impression that either of them are perverted freaks or anything. Nanoka is a young girl who doesn't yet know what society expects from her morally, and Koshiro is a grown man who knows but doesn't understand said expectations, constantly fighting against the roles that siblings are supposed to play that society gave to them. He was reluctant at first, even going as far as to move out of his father's house to be separated from his sister. After she decides to visit him, however, he gives up, accepting the love that she gave to him and reciprocating his love back to her. Don't be fooled, however. The show is not completely reassuring. In episode 11, Koshiro's close friend and work supervisor, Kaname Chidori, discovers their illicit relationship and lays into him, calling him a pervert and walking away. After failing to convince Koshiro to break it off, she confronts Nanoka, going as far as to lie about her and Koshiro being in a relationship. After realizing that their feelings are, in fact, mutual, she apologizes to Koshiro for calling him a pervert and agrees to stop interfering, hoping that they don't regret their decision. After the series came out back in 2004, a reviewer named Christian Nutt said, and I quote, "Kaze is not a reassuring show, but if it skirts the edge of disaster instead of plunging in, it may offer warmth to lonely, troubled people, and that's worth a lot." And I found that this is absolutely true. Although the show does criticize incest to a certain extent, the siblings do end up together in the end, prepared to accept the consequences of their decision should it end up to have been a mistake. I myself am not one of these troubled people Christian was referring to, principally because I have no siblings, let alone siblings that I was raised apart from, but yeah, the lonely label does fit pretty well. There's a million ways this series could have gone wrong, and Kaze avoids every one of them. If we're comparing it to another incest anime, Kiss took an approach that I could see being insulting to people actually suffering from genetic attraction, making jokes about the situation, and depicting the guy as a spineless pussy who can't fight back against his assertive sisters. Oreimo, less insulting, does attempt to challenge the siblings' relationship towards the end of the series. However, this fails because of the lack of build-up to this melodramatic scene. It comes out of nowhere, and in the end leads nowhere because the two do end up together in the end, even if it is short-lived, with no repercussions or possibilities of repercussions as a consequence. I'd also like to discuss the ending for a second, so if you don't want to be spoiled about the ending of the show, then please skip ahead to the time specified on screen. I was very surprised by the end of the show, which will either be a positive or a negative depending on who you ask. I expected their parents and possibly Nanoka's friends to find out about their illicit relationship and to pull them apart, getting the authorities involved to force Nanoka to move away, the two siblings never being able to see each other again, which is the conclusion that most viewers would have wanted from it. However, I'm not the most viewers. Instead, their parents and Nanoka's friends never found out. I was especially surprised about that last part because towards the end of the show there was a scene where Nanoka's friends were about to spy on her but decided against it. If they did, they surely would have discovered her dark secret. The only other character in the show who found out was Koshiro's former co-worker Kaname, who, as I explained, eventually agreed to back down, wishing them the best, allowing the two of them to live together. I like this ending. Now, I'm not saying that I condone incest. I'm saying that it's more complicated than that, at least in this particular situation. I am of the belief that you can't control who you fall in love with, which is what makes the story so tragic. Plus, this series does have a rather ambiguous ending, not allowing us the knowledge as to whether or not the decision turned out to be a mistake, so I suppose that the shallow people who see the situation as a black and white taboo can imagine that it ends up blowing up in their face in the future. I guess the term to describe Kaze would be bittersweet. It notifies the characters of the cons to their decision, not without its share of drama, but still allows them to make that decision as mature adults, even though one of them isn't technically an adult yet. If there's any flaws that I could see with the series, it's that although Kaze does go further with its theme of incest than I've ever seen in any other anime, it could have gone so much further, which it would have been able to do if it was given 2 cores instead of 1 core. It does seem rather fast-paced, unrealistically progressing to the point that it does, so a larger run would have been helpful. Other than that, I really had no other qualms about the show. I usually don't like endings that are left open like this, but I don't mind it here because of the uncertain nature not just of romance in general, but especially of an incestuous romance. And that about does it for this video. In the description I'll place a link to an article written on June 16th, 2016 of a woman suffering from genetic sexual attraction explaining how it feels to fall in love with her father. It's a very interesting, insightful story which I recommend that everyone takes the time to read through. If you enjoyed this video, then please be sure to subscribe to my channel and follow me on Twitter if you feel so inclined. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.